Welcome to the Jupiter Real Estate Market Update, January 2025. This will be the Single Family Homes edition. This is the video where I try to answer the question, is the Jupiter real estate market headed for a crash? The median single family home price in Jupiter is now $930,000. That's up from a year ago, $775,000. My name is Prindle, your Jupiter Realtor. If you're thinking about buying a home, selling a home, downsizing, upsizing, buying a second home, anywhere here in Jupiter, give me a call, 786-443-7203. My number will also be right down there in the description. Easiest way to find me, call or text me. If you want, you can email me, also put that in the description. But do it sooner rather than later, and don't be shy. Data typically runs 30 days behind the date of this video, just so you know. Stick around to the end of the video, and I'm going to give you some of my additional thoughts on the market that I can't squeeze into the rest of it. All right, as I said at the top here, median sold pricing up to $930,000 here. A lot of people like to put a whole lot of stock in median pricing. I do not. The reason that I don't put a whole lot of stock in it, specifically in Jupiter, is I just don't think it's that useful of a metrics. You know, you look at the number of properties that sell, it's too small to make it kind of a meaningful. Sorry, got a chair scratcher here. I think the sample size is too small to make it a meaningful statistic to track. If you want to look at all of Palm Beach County or something like that, it makes a little bit more sense. All that I think you really take from this is the general trend that, just look back at, 2021 before. Prices have moved up in general. I think that's kind of what you take from this. All right, total number of sales. Look, I track a number of different statistics. There are really only three that if you've watched enough of my video, you know I pay a lot of attention to. That's months of inventory, total number of properties sold, days on market. Those are really the things I think that give you the best pulse on the market. So if you want to look back here, we were at 47 sales December of 23, up to 70 sales. So the pace of sales has increased. Now, who's that better for? If you're a buyer and you're looking to negotiate, you want fewer sales happening. Number two is coming to visit. You want fewer sales happening because it's going to give you more room to negotiate. If you're a seller, obviously you want more properties transacting. It gives you more liquidity in the market, et cetera, et cetera. So this is an important thing to keep an eye on. We are on the bottom half of this chart. Look, my crystal ball is broken a lot. I don't think we're out of the woods here. I think I'll answer a lot of these questions at the end of the video, but I don't think 2025 looks a whole lot different than 2024 did. So let's move along here. All right, list to sales price ratio. This is something I like to keep a pretty close eye on. This is going to tell you what percentage of a listing price homes are selling for. Now, this is the original listing price. So if people did price reductions and it sells at full price, it's going to use the original listing price when it calculates this metric. So it can tell you a couple of things. If the spread's getting larger, it can tell you that buyers are negotiating more, sellers are negotiating more, or it can just tell you that sellers were way over the market. When they came to market, they priced too aggressively and they had to move their price down. And that's how this gets reflected here. The lower that we are on this chart, the better this is for buyers. It shows you have more wiggle room in negotiation. The tighter, especially, you look up here in 22, we're 101%, basically whatever price you slapped on it, you were getting that and then some. This is a different ballgame. This is where negotiation style is much more important. than up here where, kind of anybody could get it done. Now it's a much more nuanced market. My opinion, you kind of have to know a lot more of what you're doing in this market than you did in the 2022 market. That being said, a lot of people overpaid in 2022 and then they're kind of caught. I digress. Anyways, let's move on to the next median days on market. So before I move on, let me remind you, if you're thinking about buying or selling a property here in Jupiter, give me a call or shoot me a text. My phone number is 786-443-7203. I'm easy to find. If you're too shy to call or text and you want to email, you can email caseyprindle@gmail.com. I will respond to it. But one way or another, get in touch with me sooner rather than later, honestly, because the sooner I get involved in a search, the easier it is, quite honestly, or especially if you're trying to prep a home for sale. All right, median days on market. So we're at 51 days. Let's go back here. December of 23, we were at 41 days. This does not include the amount of time that you're in contract. This just includes the amount of time that a property is active on the MLS. So when you see 51 days, you're going to have to assume 30 to 45 days for close. So add 30 to 45 days here. You're closer to 80, 90 days. You're closer to a 3-month time frame from the time you put your house on the market to the time you get the check in your hand if you're a seller, or when you own the home if you're a buyer. So who's it better and worse for? Lower days on market creates a lot of pressure for buyers. A house they see on Monday, look back here, look, 12 days. If you saw a house on Monday or Tuesday, you better have your offer ready and out the door. 51 days, polar opposite. You see a house on Monday, it's still there the next Monday, 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 still there the next Monday. You get my point. There's not a lot of pressure for buyers to make an immediate decision. This favors buyers heavily. It does not favor sellers. All right, median price per square foot, still on the upper side of this chart. I feel like I have beaten this one to death. The nicer stuff is selling. Now look, a lot of this is dependent on price point. So use this as a general view again. This is why I don't like using median square foot pricing that much, because this is going to lump in, a beachfront sale with something that's closer in the middle of the town. The numbers just, they don't really translate well. But all I think you can take from this is the newer and repaired stuff is selling. The stuff in beat up condition that sells at a low price per square foot, you don't see a whole lot of buyer interest in that right now, at least from what I see. All right, total dollar volume. Now, I've run through this before in a number of other videos. Look, we have a pretty decent number of very high dollar volume sales here in Jupiter. If you look at this 121 million, usually if you take the top 5 sales out, you have 30, 40 million in volume that makes up this 121. Some months I've illustrated it can plummet as much as 50% by just taking the top 5 sales out. So the data is really skewed in Jupiter because of this. You have such a dichotomy of sales pricing, right? So again, you can take a look at this. You can, if you want to glean something for overall market health from it, I guess you can. Just don't put a whole lot of stock in it, in my opinion anyways. Again, there are much better stats to track than this one. All right, before I go on to months of inventory, I want to bring up something that I did that I think is kind of interesting. I hope you guys will too. So obviously I'm a data junkie, right? I run my real estate practice based on data, not the color of your curtains. That's a different kind of agent that I'm just not. With that in mind, what I wanted to do was take a 5-year look back and look at what the trend in pricing has really been. You can see it on these graphs, but I think when you take year-end statistics and you put them all together and kind of break the data out, plus I pull some data in that isn't on these reports that I think is kind of telling and more interesting. So I created a look back study for a number of different places. Jupiter Farm, zip code 33458, just all around Jupiter. If you have an interest in getting any of those reports, just either email or call or text me and ask me that you'd like a copy of the report, and I'll send it out to you. It's easy to find data on all of Palm Beach, but there's really nobody that pulls it just for Jupiter that I know of, aside from me, and especially nobody that compiles a 5-year look-back study. So I think it's going to be some data that you haven't seen and you can't really get any other way. So I'd love to share it with you if you find it of interest. Again, call, text, or email me and I'll get it out to you. Let's move on to month's supply of inventory. All right, so a common question I get is, how is it possible that median pricing can be moving up if the number of sales is moving down? And my common refrain is always, well, if you show me where the inventory levels are, I can answer that question for you, right? Jupiter is an interesting place in that if you look across the nation, 6 months of inventory is considered to favor neither buyers nor sellers. You look at Jupiter, we haven't even hit 6 months on this whole chart. If you want to use 4 months as an average, sure. But look, our supply is coming down, or it looks to be anyways, right? The less supply there is, that can cure a lot of ills for sellers, right? Because it just means buyers don't have that many choices. And what this means is at the current number of sales, there would only be 4.48 months of supply left. We just have very limited supply here. That's what causes prices to stay elevated, even if sales aren't as strong as they are in some other areas. We just have constrained inventory. As long as we have constrained inventory, prices are pretty much going to favor pushing up rather than pushing down. That's just kind of how it goes. The only way you could cure this is a massive amount of supply coming to market. I was going to touch on this at the end of the video, but let's just dive into it now. Here's the difference, because a lot of times people call me, I think we're headed for a crash. And I say, well, why? Walk me through your scenarios. This isn't 2006. We don't have a huge amount of leverage and a huge amount of distress. There's a handful of people that are upside down that just, got caught in the frenzy and made a poor pricing decision. But for the most part, people have equity. They can just sell. Here's the additional wrinkle. A lot of people aren't selling that 3% mortgage rate, 4% mortgage rate to move into a 6 or 7% mortgage rate because the math doesn't make as much sense. They're basically selling their home to buy half as much home to pay the same amount of money each month. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? So there's a lot of sellers that when I sit with them, they just, we walk through the math and I go, well, where are you going to go if you sell? And they realize, well, they just don't necessarily need to right now. That's happening a lot through the market, and that's why supply is remaining constrained. Now, that being said, if you have a second home and you're thinking about getting rid of it, come on, give me a call, man, because now is a real good, if you look at this chart, now is a real good time to get that thing on the market, right? All right, let me give you some additional thoughts. Once again, my crystal ball, it's broken a lot, right? All right, so like I said in the top of this, is the Jupiter real estate market headed for a crash? Pretty much just answered the question for you with what I just went through. I don't see it happening. Again, if there was a tremendous amount of supply that came to hit this market and this just became one seller undercutting another seller and it was going to drag prices down dramatically, sure, I can see that. People, I think, largely understand, when you come into Jupiter, it's a pricey piece of real estate, right? I think people get that. There's not a whole lot of things that are changing in the reasons that people want to buy here. A lot of families want to buy because there are good schools in Jupiter, right? That's not changing. A lot of people want second homes in Jupiter because they foolishly lived choose to live in places that are 5 degrees in the wintertime. Not my choice. You go ahead and do that. We still have the beach. It's not going anywhere. We still have low taxes. That certainly isn't changing. Aside from your assessed tax bill or your homeowner's insurance, which, side note, those are two things. If you do own a second home or if you do own a rental property, you're seeing your yields compress way down, right? Because your top line is staying the same. We're pretty much capped out on where we're going to be on rent. Landlords are having a real tough time pushing rent any further than where it is now. So your top line staying the same and your expense line keeps pushing up, your margin gets thinner. So investment properties, second homes, it's going to cost you more to carry each of those going forward. Those are the people that I think, that's where the supply is going to come from. But we just don't have a huge ton of that. You're talking about a smaller number relative to the amount of people that live here full time, regardless of how it feels to us who live here full time in the winter when everybody comes down. But I digress on all that. Look, I don't think the market's going to suddenly crash. Interest rates, I don't think are dramatically going to pull down. I'm not buying into that, and I'm not telling anybody to buy into that. And don't listen to this date the rate, marry the property thing nonsense. I think you're going to be stuck with the rate that you get for your mortgage for a pretty decent period of time. So that's what I got, guys. Please feel free. Call, text, or email me, 786-443-7203. Or email me. It's down below. Excuse the barking dog. And we'll see you guys next month.